War in Ukraine, the 5th of April. The situation on the ground. Weather. Kharkiv. We can expect mixed weather, some rain and rain-snow over the coming week. Svatova. Also here we can expect mixed weather with some rain and snow over the coming week. Donetsk City. Mixed weather, mostly showers. Kherson City. Mixed weather, some days of showers, otherwise partly cloudy to cloudy. The Ukrainian General Staff reported 145 combat engagements in the last 24 hours. Kursk area. We have reported ongoing fighting but no confirmed changes over the last day. Russian sources report a Ukrainian counterattack, but that is not confirmed. Russian forces likely continue to exert significant pressure in this area. We can likely expect ongoing, probably heavy fighting here over the coming days. Limited changes are not impossible. North of Kharkiv, we have ongoing, limited Russian attacks in this area, with 4 combat clashes reported since yesterday. No confirmed changes. We have some reports that Russian forces are changing tactics in this area. So we can expect some limited Russian attacks here, but Russian gains are unlikely over the coming week. That is based on previous fighting and current reporting. Kupiansk-Svatova area. The Ukrainian General Staff reported only limited fighting here. Other reporting would indicate more significant clashes in this area. We have reports of Russian attacks from north of Kupiansk down to Senkova and southeast of that position. I have no confirmed Russian gains since yesterday. Russian forces have crossed the river north of Kupiansk at several locations, but they have not managed to exploit any of those crossings yet. Over the last month, no real changes here. We have had some successful Ukrainian counterattacks. I expect ongoing fighting, likely significant. It is less likely with any significant changes here. Minor changes are not unlikely over the coming week. Kremina area. The Ukrainian General Staff reported 39 combat clashes in this area. We have significant Russian pressure all along the front. While Russian forces have managed to cross the Sherebets River and made a significant bridgehead around Ivanivka, they have not really managed to exploit that. We do have Russian gains direction Katarinivka. Mostly, Ukrainian forces have managed to slow down Russian gains, but they have not managed to completely stall them. Russian gains have over time been limited, but they have had some minor tactical successes. We can expect heavy Russian attacks here, and Russian gains are not unlikely over the coming week. Siversk salient, Bakhmut, Toretsk. At the Siversk salient, Russian attacks continue, but they are not able to make any significant gains here. The terrain is advantageous for the defenders. Likely is limited Russian attacks in this area over the coming week. It is unlikely with any significant Russian gains here or even minor Russian gains over the coming week. At Chasiv Yar we have some Russian attacks, no gains reported. We have reports of minor Ukrainian gains inside Chasiv Yar. Overall, the situation has not changed since yesterday. Over the last month, only limited changes here, with some Russian tactical gains that have not really changed the general situation. Overall, the tactical situation for Ukraine at Chasiv Yar remains problematic, but they continue to mostly stall Russian attacks. At Toretsk we had 20 Russian attacks reported, minor Russian gains inside Toretsk, no other changes reported. Over the last month, no major changes here. We only have some limited Russian gains. It is likely that Russian forces continue taking significant losses in this sector. I do not expect any major changes here over the coming week. Donetsk city area, Pokrovsk sector. Here we had 40 Russian attacks reported by the Ukrainian General Staff. Russian attacks continue in force in this sector, but they are struggling to make any significant gains. We have had some Ukrainian counterattacks that have improved their situation here somewhat. Since yesterday, we have had limited gains reported for both sides. They have not changed the overall situation in this sector. Over the last month, the front line has been mostly static with ongoing heavy fighting, and that is expected to continue over the coming week. I do not expect any major changes here. Ukrainian counterattacks are not unlikely. West of Donetsk city. We have had some Russian pressure here, but overall their gains have been relatively slow if we look back over the last month. Mostly it has been Ukrainian forces pulling back from exposed positions. This does not mean that Ukrainian forces are not under pressure here, but the tactical situation looks relatively okay at this time. I do expect ongoing Russian attacks, and Russian limited gains are not improbable. Vremivka area. Here we have had some Russian gains over the last month, but also here they have been relatively slow. It looks like Russian forces are aiming for the road north of Vremivka. We can therefore expect ongoing Russian attacks direction Vesele and Fedorivka. I do not expect major changes here, but we should keep an eye on this area. Kamyansk area. Over the last month, we have had Russian attacks in this area with some gains. They have been fighting to retake the terrain lost during the Ukrainian counteroffensive of 2023. Based on current information, it is likely we will continue seeing Russian attacks in this sector. At this time, the situation looks relatively stable. General conclusions. Since yesterday, no major changes. Over the last month, the biggest change is of course the Ukrainian retreat from parts of Kursk Oblast, including them having to pull back from Sudza. Except for that, no major significant Russian gains. Russian attacks north of Kupiansk of course remains problematic, but Ukrainian forces have so far managed to contain the Russian bridgeheads. Ukrainian forces have also managed to stabilize the situation at Pokrovsk, and we have some ongoing Ukrainian counterattacks in that area. Locally, they have made limited gains that have improved the Ukrainian situation somewhat. The US pivot towards Russia has put Ukraine in a very problematic situation militarily. While that is not an imminent problem, there will come a time when previous US aid will be depleted and European aid have not managed to replace that. Probably that point will be reached towards the summer. On the other side, Russian forces are also depleted and they continue to struggle to sustain their war economy. European aid packages have been announced, but mostly that is military equipment to be produced, and so it will not have a direct impact on the fighting in the near term. In the long term, that will for sure help, but it will not change the situation on the ground in the near term. What will happen with the current peace plan is uncertain, and I can make no prediction regarding that. What we can say is that Russia has not given up on their maximalistic goals, and it is unlikely that Ukraine can accept Russian demands. Meanwhile, USA is launching a trade war, and there will likely be some implications for Russia, even though they were excluded from US tariffs. Probably we will see a reduction in growth globally, and that will affect the oil price. There is of course a possibility that the US will start lifting sanctions on Russia, and that would to some degree offset a lower oil price. Should US sanctions remain in place, and we will see a worldwide recession, which does not seem improbable, or at the very least a slowing down in growth, that should give a lower oil price and so directly impact Russia. Even before the trade war was started, we were heading towards a lowering of the oil price. At this moment, too much is uncertain to make any realistic predictions. That we will see turbulence on a global scale is very likely, and that will impact the war in Ukraine. But how, that is uncertain. End of report.